Today we're going to be looking at our Rafa grenade build. This thing is absolutely insane no matter what you want to do. If you're drill site farming, it clears incredibly quickly. You can insta-nuke any boss in the entire game. It is actually insane how much damage you can output with this. And you can be moving quick all the time because you can essentially live in your overdrive once you have the correct specializations. And it just does so much damage and it's a lot of fun to play. There is no bugged interactions happening here. This is completely ethical. I was debating calling it ethical Rafa just because we are not abusing any sort of bug. This is just straight up how these items work. Like, that's just what they are. So it's really cool that we were able to throw this together and get such good output out of it. Another part I really like about this build is you do not have to change any piece of gear depending on what type of content you're doing. I run the exact same equipment for everything. There's no changing or remembering the need to change before a boss, anything like that. So it's just a one-stop shop. Once you get these items, you are good to go. And honestly, it's fairly easy to farm for. There's not like any crazy gear that you need for this. This is the first time I've used all legendary gear in a build. I'm not running a single purple, which is kind of cool. So we're going to be going through all that in this video, what you need to get it running, and just kind of what you can expect out of it. If you do enjoy the build and want to help me hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, I'll greatly appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. Let's go ahead and jump into the build. So the main thing that we're trying to do with this build is just buff our grenade like crazy. Now, our grenade that we're going to be using for this build is the Firepot. This thing is insane. I made a whole video on it the other day just because it is so good. It gets scaling from so many different sources. So in our particular case, it's going to be getting gun damage, it's going to be getting ordnance damage, and it's going to be getting indirect projectiles. All of those are going to be buffing this grenade for us, and it's going to allow us to skyrocket its damage. Now, essentially how this thing works is when you throw it, it's just going to be like bouncing around and sending out little toric stickies. These will home in on enemies. It's not right now because I haven't damaged any of the target dummies, so they just kind of fly wherever. If there was an aggro enemy like this, let me go ahead and aggro him. They're now going to be, tracking and sticking to the target. So essentially what we need to do with this build is get as many grenades out as we can to apply as many stickies as we can, which will juice their damage even further. So essentially what we're doing is going for an extra charge on the grenade. Also with Peacebreaker cannons, we're able to actually throw out a turret, and this is going to be shooting our grenades for us. Once I hit this target here, you'll be able to see in a second. It's sending out some grenades for us. And with our class mod, we get a duplicate grenade, and that will actually transfer into this turret as well. So it will send out 2 grenades instead of just the 1. So that is a lot of grenades and stickies we can get out at one time. And also with the build, we're able to throw past our ordnance cooldown, so we can get even more and allows for the insta boss nukes like you guys saw at the start of the video. But let's take a look at the actual skills and the skill tree that you need to make this happen. Starting with our main tree, the one that we have the most points in our green tree. From here, we're just going to be specking points into Handshake Deal. This is a bit of gun damage, but once again, the Firepot is benefiting directly from gun damage, and also gun damage is going into our ordnance damage, which will also affect Vice. So this is basically double dipping for us, so ends up being a way bigger bonus than that 15%. I do some overdrive movement speed, just so we can be getting around quicker. Put 1 point into L core zone, just so we can move down and get to the last. Once again, gun damage is a big damage bonus for us because it's going to be applying in 2 separate cases. Also, we're intentionally lowering our health a lot with this build, so we can get this bonus very often. Then we're going to do 5 points into our artillery. This way we can throw our grenades way more often. That 30% cooldown is huge. Then we're getting Synergia. We're also getting +3 from our class mod, so this ends up being a massive damage bonus. We can get 120% gun damage, and we can do that very quickly because we're dealing ordnance damage from a bunch of hits. So that's going to stack up to 10 incredibly quickly. Then I do 2 points into Booming Business just so we can get some extra free grenades here and there. Our cannon that we throw down can crit and proc this for us. Our grenades can crit and proc it for us. So just our sheer volume of projectiles we're putting out, we can actually get this to proc essentially, on its cooldown time every 10 seconds. And ends up being very helpful for the clear compared to just like 2 points into Collaborate Ignition, in my opinion. So I just do 2 points into here. And then finally, Demolitions. This is going to allow us to bypass our ordnance cooldown, but it's going to start costing more and more health. So if we take a look at how that actually works here in a moment, once my action skill is back, Now that our action skill is back, so whenever your action skill is active or just overdrive in general is active is when you can take advantage of this. But once we get through our main charges of our grenade, so now we're on cooldown, we can throw extras and it's going to start taking more and more life per throw. Sorry, that's pretty loud. We do have some lifesteal going on right now just because of our firmware, which I will get to in a little bit. So yeah, as you can see, it's going to be more and more. Eventually, it will down you, like right here. I threw it too many times, and it's just going to insta-down me. So just keep that in mind. You'll kind of learn how many you can throw. Usually I was throwing like 6 to 7 at some bosses, starting from the full 3 charges, and that was enough to not down myself and still insta-nuke a boss. Now we can finish looking at our skill tree with the red tree. This is going to be where the rest of our points go. We can do 5 points into Rafa gains increased gun damage, 25%. Once again, gun damage, massive bonus for this build. Then we can do Jaruga to help keep our Peacebreakers up more often. Then 3 points in El Valiente. We're going to be getting our shields back pretty quick when we combine it with Sia, and we're doing a lot of mobbing. Or if you're doing bosses, don't get hit by the boss, and you're going to get a big bonus in damage right there. Then with our final 8 points, we're going to be doing Asymmetric Warfare. Once again, the Firepot is going to be benefiting from indirect projectiles, so we get a big bonus here. And then we can also get more bonus incendiary damage, and the Firepot is incendiary, so this can be double as well. Unfortunately, I can't max this out just because we don't have enough points. We really do need this capstone here for just spamming out the nades. So unfortunately, until we get a level of cap increase, we are stuck with 3 points into Aaron's Spark. I kind of talked about this earlier, but Instafort battle system is what's going to allow us to throw our Peacebreaker on the ground, and it's going to send out nades for us. It's not going to shoot nades out off of your back. You have to throw it onto the ground. So just keep that in mind. If you're just kind of generally mobbing, I'd keep the Peacebreakers on your back. Then when you need to kill a boss or a big target, that's when you can throw it on the ground, and it will start sending out the nades pretty quickly. Now with our gear, there's not really any crazy requirements for this. I just like using a chuck just because you click and the gun instantly throws. Like you don't have to shoot, then reload to get it to throw. I specifically like it with the Merv homing. I can look up in the air and they're going to go straight down to whatever I need to, and it really helps you deal just some extra clear completely passively. It's an assault rifle, so you get a bunch of ammo, and then also if you pair it with the enhancement that I'm running, you'll just have infinite ammo. You can throw this basically as much as you want. Also, it's kinetic. We're going to be doing a lot of bonus damage with our nades with our current gun's element, so this is nice as just like a generic thing because kinetic doesn't get any penalties. But this is what plays into our other three weapons. So if you notice, I have a fire weapon, corrosive weapon, and a shock weapon, this one being level 28. The weapons themselves do not matter. I like to just have these 3 elements because essentially what I'll do is throw out all my nades, and then essentially whatever is like the main health bar of the boss that I'm fighting, I will just I'll throw a chuck. So essentially what I do is I click to throw a chuck and then immediately swap to whatever elements I need. So like for Radix, for example, he has the shield and then a bunch of armor. So I will throw this and then swap to a corrosive weapon. That way, the initial throw will get to the Torgue stickies to start exploding, get through the shield, and by the time I have the corrosive weapon in my hand, the Torgue stickies are now blowing up on the armor. It allows you to nuke just, a little bit quicker. It really doesn't matter. You can just keep the chuck in your hand the whole time, to be honest. But if you just want to go for like the super fast, fun kills, then you can do the swap into the proper element. So that's why I just run a fire, corrosive, and shock. Once again, the actual weapon itself does not matter. Now, for our rep kit, I've just been using a triple bypass with Go-Go Gadget for the Ordnance cooldown. This way, I always have it active. I always have that 50% cooldown rate active. I just got to remember to pop it every 10 seconds. You're getting charges back on kills, so that's very nice. You could run this right here if you find a better version. Unfortunately, mine rolled as a mega, so if you find a mini where the cooldown is much, much less, you can get much better uptime on your Peacebreaker cannons and still have basically constant uptime on the Go-Go Gadget. So just look for those two on an order and a low cooldown. You could replace the triple bypass, but the main thing is getting Go-Go Gadget going at all times. So this is probably the easiest thing to go grab compared to the complete RNG purple rep kit right here, where you can potentially get really long cooldowns. Then, once again, fire pots. If there is a Merv out there, I haven't seen it. I've farmed a ton of fire pots. I would go for a Merv, but I don't think it exists, so I like extra charge. You could do cooldown. I don't really recommend the, I don't have one here on me anymore. I thought I did, but the nuke one, it increases the damage, which is cool, but the radius increases as well, and you can end up downing yourself a lot. The exacting does not work on the stickies from anything that I've tested. I've had this equipped and I never crit, so just keep that in mind. This isn't really going to do anything for you, so I do just recommend the extra charge. You can get more stickies, more clears, so overall I think this is the best option unless there is a MERV variant out there that I've just been super unlucky at not finding. For our class mod, we're going to be using the Grenade. This is almost the best roll that I could possibly get. So whenever Rafa throws a grenade or TDR gun, you're going to throw an additional one. So the skill breakdown that I have here is basically what you want is 4 into the red skill and 3 into the green. If we take a look at those real quick, the red skill is confetti. We deal bonus ordnance damage of the gun's current element. So that's why, once again, when you're swapping around to the different weapon types, you can deal a little bit extra depending on what their health type is. And then finally is the Synergia that I talked about earlier, and that's going to allow us to stack up to 120% gun damage, which would be a huge bonus for our grenade. And then it's always going to roll gun damage on it, which once again is perfectly fine. If you can get like ordnance crit chance or anything like that, gun crit chance would probably be very good options, or just any sort of, generic damage or cooldown durations for your action skill, anything like that. But once again, doesn't really matter too much. I've just been running this one just because these skills have worked out pretty well for me. Our shield, we're going to do the fireworks. We do not need any help in terms of bossing. The fireworks is just insane, especially since we're going into a bit of indirect projectiles. We can clear much quicker, help us do a lot quicker drill site clears, and just passively kill things around our targets, which is really cool. And then finally, for the enhancement, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to benefit our Firepot really in any way. So I've just been running this legendary TDR one with the maximum loaded ammo in the thrown damage calculation, and it also keeps 50% of your magazine's ammo on the reload. This way I can just keep throwing the chuck as much as I want. If you're going to run a purple, just run the keeps 50% of the magazine's ammo on reload so you don't ever really run out of ammo. The chuck does decent damage, but for the most part the Firepot is going to be your main thing. So just keep that in mind. Now the firmware for this build is kind of weird. So I like 2 Gadget Ahoy. You could run 3 if you really want to, and I'll explain why in a second. But for the most part, I've really just enjoyed the cooldown and a little bit of damage there for that 1 extra point. But our 3-set bonus, I've kind of played around with a few different things, and I felt like Risky Boots was going to be amazing because when health is below 35%, damage dealt is increased by 100%, which is massive, and lifesteal is increased by 5%. Also, we get some movement speed and reduced damage taken. So that works out great with our setup because, once again, as we are in overdrive, we can lower our health with throws here. So once I get through these, we can see my health is now going down, and we're below that 35%. So if we wanted to make all these explode, boom, completely free. These are all blowing up with 100% damage. Awesome. But the issue is, this thing, I would assume it's bugged, because essentially what's happening is when you're hitting things, you're going to get that lifesteal. And here, really quick, let me throw these. I end up downing myself, so give me 1 more second. So here we can show off the lifesteal portion. So let me start cutting into my health and making sure I'm aggroed on here. See, my health starts going up a pretty good amount. I can chunk into my health. It is a little unsynergistic with the bonuses that Risky Boots gives you, but you can still manage to get below that 35%. Not down yourself and still get all that damage off. So that is something you can play around with the build. But this is where Risky Boots gets a little weird. So if I go stand in a bunch of enemies and let them hit me real quick, my fireworks is going to be sending out passive things. It's not really going to do anything. But once they start doing damage to my health here, you can see it keeps going back up. I'm not hitting anything. Why is that? For whatever reason, it's seeming like Risky Boots is basically storing all the lifesteal that you did. So if you get to full health and it hasn't used up all the lifesteal, it basically just sits there in reserves. And it doesn't seem to go away. You can stack it here on the dummies like I just showed. It is very weird. I don't know why it's doing that. It might be I feel like it has to be a bug at this point. But yeah, I really wish it wasn't, because then we could get much more consistent increased damage out of this build. But for the most part, it is actually really helpful for drill site clearing. You can, just constantly have health coming back. You don't need to be popping a rep kit. You You can just, wait it out, throw some nades, and just keep getting that lifesteal going. And there's probably something really silly you can do, but I just wanted to point that out here with risky boots. Just something to keep in mind. I still like to run 3 points into it, but you can change this out for like the get throw-in one. That one is going to be sending out like a little homing missile when you throw your TDRs and grenades. But I didn't find it to be like that helpful, so I ended up changing for risky boots, and I've been enjoying that so far. Now for our specializations, they are going to help out this build a lot just because of some of the different options and the way we're scaling. So the most important one that you want to grab first is Full Spectrum Arsenal. This is going to allow all of our gun damage increases to turn into 50% ordnance damage. That way we can, double dip into our Firepot. This is going to be a huge bonus for us. And then don't do what I did. I unfortunately don't have an Iridium to respec, and I haven't gone and done any bounties. But then you're also going to really want now with caffeine, so you can stay in overdrive all the time. You can just pop a few of your rep kits, especially with triple bypass. You could very easily, just get your entire cooldown back by popping those and get back into your action skill. Then I would go for Riddle You This. This is going to give us gun damage, and that's going to scale once again into Full Spectrum Arsenal and stack from our Firepot. The final thing I would get is Fragmentation Payload. That's going to give us the crit chance and Ordnance critical hit damage. But you can kind of play around with if you want Riddle You This or Fragmentation Payload first. But ideally, go Full Spectrum, caffeine, and then either one of these two as your last two. Yeah, overall, this Firepot Rafa is one of my favorite builds in the game right now. For basically anything, it clears really quick. You nuke bosses with it, and you don't have to change a thing, and it's very easy to set up. So seriously, I've been enjoying this like crazy. I was actually a little worried that I wasn't going to like Rafa the few times I've kind of messed around with him so far. And once I found out this, I have been loving him. Seriously, one of my favorite setups so far. And the one thing I was really worried about was flying enemies, but luckily the Firepot handles them perfectly fine. If you chuck the nade straight up in the air near the flying enemy, the stickies are just going to home right in on them, and it's really no big deal. That's why I tried to show off a few flying enemy kills at the start of this video, so there's absolutely nothing that this thing can't handle. You can kill vile enemies with it just because we're doing splash, which is very nice. So, and you just never have to change a thing. So once again, awesome setup, and I highly recommend giving it a go. Otherwise, once again, I'm going to leave you with some unedited gameplay from our stream last night if you're curious just to see, how the current version is playing out for myself as I'm casually playing. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this far. If you did enjoy it, want to consider subscribing to help me reach 100,000 before the end of the year, that'd be greatly appreciated. But yeah, hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya. Pango and Bango. I lived in the Pango and Bango. You merely adopted Pango and Bango. I was born in it. They're also kind of a fun drill site. It was hilarious too, because I was about to get off for the night when I got mine, and I was testing some like sniper vex or bleed vex shit. I was like, all right, because it was at like 4 a.m. I'm gonna do one more quick little run before I go to bed. And they gave me a shiny. I was like, oh, sweet, thank you. Did you really not get stuck? The fuck? Level 42, gotcha. Nice. Glad you guys are able to like share and help spread some stuff around. Help each other out. Yeah, some of the most upgrades that I've gotten so far in this game is just when like I've been drill farming with Nick and people. Like it's crazy what playing co-op can do. And you guys are just like, hey, let me know if you find this thing. Very, very helpful. I really know that's chemical. Oh shit. I thought it was boss time. Hopefully we got enough time. like there's like an extra wave. Am I crazy? I don't really know. That is chemical. How are you getting out of there unscathed, brother? How are you not getting a sticky placed on you? Winning the lottery. Here's one J for you as Jacobs. Nice. I'm still waiting on the like perfect Jacobs enhancement. One day it's gonna happen. Okay, surely you all get fucked here. How are you not getting stuck? Okay, no, you did. It just took an hour to blow up that time. That was something. Always summon the farm. Well, that's been the really cool thing about this game, is not just like there's two things that are good. So it's nice that there's a lot of different things, considering we don't have like a true end game. It's at least something to do while we wait. It's a lot of shit to test. Fucking love this song. Did we build out for this yet? No, we just kind of got it going today. I should have it posted tomorrow. I need one more firmware piece, and I'll be pretty happy with it. I've never tried that on Arlo yet, to be honest. I could technically get a better class mod, but it'd be very difficult, because basically right now my that's such a good song. You want the Sandhog back? As a sniper or an SMG? I doubt they bring it back for a third game, but maybe. I genuinely don't know what they're willing to... Oh, okay. Bring back. There's nothing ad-wise. Here we go. That was unfortunate.